You ever wonder why some men suddenly pull back when they're around you? Why they act distant, awkward, or even defensive, even though you've done nothing but show up as yourself? The truth is, he's not avoiding you because of something you lack. No, he's intimidated. He's unsettled. And it has everything to do with the strength you carry, the energy you radiate, and the standard you live by. In a world where most people settle for mediocrity, the presence of someone who refuses to shrink is overwhelming. And that's exactly why he feels small in your light. Confidence is not simply the ability to walk into a room and speak loudly, or to hold your head high and smile when others are watching. True confidence is a deep, almost unshakable awareness of who you are and what you stand for. It's a posture of the soul, not just of the body. When you carry that kind of confidence, it unsettles people who haven't yet confronted themselves. Think about it. Most individuals are trained, almost conditioned, to shrink, to stay quiet, to keep their ambitions hidden so as not to disrupt the fragile peace around them. They avoid the spotlight because it forces them to see their flaws. But when you walk in carrying certainty, without arrogance, without apology, you hold up a mirror. You remind people of everything they've ignored, every dream they've abandoned, every excuse they've allowed to become a cage, and that mirror is terrifying. For him, it isn't just your presence, it's what your presence symbolizes. Your confidence makes him question himself. He wonders why he feels small next to you. He wonders why your calm assurance makes his own self-doubt scream louder. You may not even say a word, yet your silence is more powerful than his noise. Because confidence speaks without speaking. It's in the way you don't chase approval, the way you don't beg to be seen, the way you don't flinch when confronted. That steadiness disarms him. It forces him to face a reality he may not be ready to accept, that he has built his identity on fragile ground. Confidence is magnetic because it's authentic. You don't wear a mask. You don't distort yourself to fit into places that cannot contain you. And authenticity is rare. Most people spend their lives pretending, building layers of persona to hide their weakness. But when you refuse to play that game, when you show up as you truly are, he can't escape the discomfort. It's like sunlight streaming through a dark room. It reveals the dust, the cracks, the disorder. He may resent you for it, not because you have wronged him, but because you embody the very strength he secretly wishes he had. And this is why your confidence intimidates him. It strips away illusions. It dismantles the fragile scaffolding of ego that he has constructed to hide his insecurities. Where he wants comfort, you bring truth. Where he wants control, you bring freedom. And truth and freedom, when embodied in a person, become impossible to ignore. Independence is not just the ability to pay your bills, live alone, or make decisions without someone holding your hand. It is far deeper than that. It is a psychological stance, a declaration that you will not allow your sense of self to be determined by the fragile approval of another human being. And when you embody that kind of independence, it rattles those who are used to control, those who find their worth in being needed. There are many people who survive by keeping others dependent on them. They feel powerful when someone else relies on their validation, their resources, their presence. But when you demonstrate that you can thrive without leaning on that, when you make it clear that you will not collapse if they walk away, you destabilize their entire framework of influence. Think about how relationships often unfold when one person is insecure. They offer attention in fragments, pulling away to see if you'll chase, offering affection only when it suits them, withholding approval as a way to keep you anxious. This is not love, it's leverage. And that leverage only works if you buy into the illusion that you need them to feel whole. But independence breaks the spell. When you have cultivated a sense of self strong enough to survive solitude, when you've built a life rich with meaning outside of their presence, You cannot be manipulated by silence or distance. You don't fear abandonment because you know you can stand on your own. That terrifies him, because it means his usual tactics lose their power. Independence is threatening precisely because it shifts the balance of responsibility. It forces others to recognize that they cannot define you. They cannot shape you to suit their insecurities. It confronts them with a stark truth. If they want to be in your life, they must contribute value rather than extract it. For someone who has not yet matured into that level of accountability, this feels unbearable. They would rather withdraw than rise. They would rather label you as cold or difficult than admit that your freedom exposes their dependency. What makes independence even more intimidating is that it shines a light on possibility. It shows others what they could be if they chose to cultivate discipline, resilience, and self-respect. It reminds them that their fears of being alone, of failing without a crutch, are illusions they've surrendered to. And when you embody independence, you remind them of everything they've avoided building within themselves. That reminder is not gentle, it cuts deeply. It stirs resentment, envy, sometimes even hostility, because your existence is proof that the excuses they cling to are optional. This is why your independence feels like a threat to him. It dismantles his illusion of control, forces him to see the cracks in his own foundation, and strips him of the ability to hold authority over your worth. You don't need him, and that is precisely what makes him question himself. Standards are not walls designed to keep people out. They are foundations built to keep you standing tall. When you live with high standards, you are saying something profound about how you view yourself and your place in the world. You're declaring that you refuse to accept what is beneath your dignity, that you will not tolerate disrespect, betrayal, or mediocrity disguised as effort. And while that kind of posture may sound admirable in theory, in practice it makes many people deeply uncomfortable, especially him. Because when your standards remain unshaken, they hold up a mirror that reveals his inadequacy. Imagine a person who has coasted through life, doing just enough to get by, offering just enough to keep relationships intact, giving just enough to avoid responsibility. That person thrives in environments where expectations are low. They can hide their laziness, disguise their neglect, and excuse their lack of growth. But the moment they encounter someone who expects more, who demands respect, consistency, and integrity, their entire comfort zone collapses. It's like standing under a spotlight. They can no longer disguise who they are. And that spotlight is your standards. They make his excuses irrelevant. They demand accountability where he has only ever offered convenience. Your standards don't just say what you won't accept. They say what you believe you're worth. And worth is powerful because it refuses to bargain with weakness. When you decide that broken promises are not enough, that crumbs of attention will not satisfy, that half-hearted effort has no place in your life, you force others to rise or retreat. And rising takes work. It demands discipline, self-reflection, and humility. Retreat is easier. So often he will withdraw, not because you are wrong to hold your standards, but because he is unwilling to face the reality of what those standards expose. This is why he calls you too much. This is why he may accuse you of being unrealistic or difficult. Because to admit the truth that your standards are not the problem, but his lack of growth is, would mean he must confront his own inadequacy. And confrontation is painful. It requires tearing down illusions, admitting failure, and committing to transformation. For someone who has avoided responsibility, that weight feels unbearable. So instead of rising, he chooses to run. But here's the irony. Your standards don't weaken you, they strengthen you. They protect your energy, your time, your emotional world. They ensure that only those willing to build, to grow, to fight for what is meaningful can remain by your side. And that is intimidating because it means he cannot skate by with half measures. He cannot rely on charm, manipulation, or empty promises. He has to become something more. And if he refuses, your standards will expose him for what he is, not enough. Not because you are impossible to satisfy, but because he refuses to rise to the level of what life demands. So, if you've ever been made to feel like your confidence is a problem, your independence is a threat, or your standards are unrealistic, remember this. Intimidation is not a sign that you're too much. It's evidence that you are exactly enough. Never shrink yourself to soothe someone else's insecurities. Never apologize for being strong. Because the very qualities that intimidate the wrong people are the same ones that inspire the right people. Keep standing tall. Keep living boldly. And let those who cannot rise to meet you fall away.